Kingstream Entertainment.
I got a relationship question.
Ruslan.
Go for it.
So you've been married for a while, I'm assuming. So I'm going through this little thing. So I got a full-time job I work. I got the clothing line and I do music. I'm a father and a husband. So how do you balance the dreams and the wife when you feel like you're already not spending enough time on your dreams to get it where you need to be? So I'm in the room all the time doing this, but she's a quality time. That's her love language. So I'll spend time with her. I get back in here, but she wants more time. So how do you balance, like, I'm not where I want to be with my dreams yet. I'm nowhere near that yet, but she still need her time. And I'm like, what if I reach my dreams and she already thinks she needs more time? Then what do I do when I actually get to where I'm trying to go? And then she's getting less time then. So I'm just trying to figure out on the come up, how did you find that balance? And now that you're in a great spot now, I know you want more, but now you're in a great spot. Then how did you continue to balance it once you got to where you were chasing, if that makes sense?
Man, listen, I am not the guy to give you these types of answers, bro. Listen. One, you gotta know that a lot of times you sound like you're wired similarly to how I'm wired. You're an entrepreneur, you're a go-getter, you're a hustler. You're trying to set yourself and your family up for the future, for the next decade. That's how you're thinking, right? I don't know if that ever stops, bro. I don't know if that ever ends. Like, that's the sucky part, whereas like there's always gonna be the next thing, right? So for me, the longest was like, if I could just go full time, if I could just quit my job, I have more time to do everything and I'll solve all my problems. And then like I quit my job, and I found the first 3 years I quit my job, I was working way harder and spending less time because I was just trying to survive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was literally just trying to keep all the bills up because it was hard initially, right? You got to remember, I quit my job before I had any sync licensing, before there was any passive income from sync licensing, before my YouTube was popping, before there was a Patreon, before there was Spotify or Apple Music. So we didn't have those monthly checks. It was just like, we drop an album, big check comes in. Hopefully we drop another album, 4 or 5 albums a year, and we'll be okay. I came in, and so it was hard. So I spent a lot of time on the road. I spent a lot of time traveling. And now I'm doing better. But now I'm like, yo, like, if I could just get a house, if I could just get us a house, if I could just get us a house and pay the house off, then I won't have no bills. If I could just get a paid for house in Southern California near the beach, then my life will be perfect. Bro, there's a degree of it where like we have to be honest with ourselves, and like, I'm sure once I get that house and I pay it off and I live a mile from the beach or half a mile from the beach, there'll be something else. Then it'll be the Tesla. Then it'll be a second Tesla. Then it'll be the second house, right? So I think one, I don't know if it's ever enough. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it's ever enough. So I think there has to be a reality that sets in. Two, I would say, I don't know if I believe in balance as much as like management and stewardship, and knowing that like, listen, there are days where I need to not start my day super early, 6 a.m. I finish working out at 7 a.m. I'm in the studio 7 to noon working, and then I break for lunch and I go back in 1 to 6, I'm working. And then my son doesn't see me all day, right? There are days where I have to be in tune with my family and say, I don't need to be in the studio at 7:30 in the morning. I can wait until 10 and get that time just to kind of hang around the house. You know what I'm saying? I can kind of push my day out. There are times where I just take the afternoon off. You know what I mean? But best believe, whenever I have those moments, in the back of my head, I'm sitting here thinking, oh man, could I be making a video right now? Could I be working on a beat right now? Right? So you're in this position as an entrepreneur, as a husband, as a provider, where whenever you aren't working and you're spending time with your family, you feel guilty for not working. But whenever you're working and you're working longer and harder than you should have, like I am right now, I really should have wrapped this up an hour ago if I'm gonna keep it a buck. Whenever you're not doing that, then you feel guilty for not spending time with your family. You know what I mean? That is a tension that a lot of us will always have. I go back to like trying to have non-negotiables and trying to have some consistent things that you're hitting every single day. For the most part, I try to be there around the time my son wakes up, and I try to be there around the time he goes to bed. That's kind of like my two things when it comes to family time. We try to watch Netflix every night, right? And so I think trying to have that balance, it's hard, it's difficult, and I think you also got to have some conversations and some expectations. Hey, this is the season we're in right now. And then let your wife push back. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I feel like I got this opportunity with this line, da 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 da. I feel like we could really crush it if I learn A, B, and C. Have some objective. I got to learn Facebook ads. I got to learn how to do this thing. I got to revamp the logo. I feel like if I do these 3 things and I get another 50 pieces of inventory and I can learn Facebook ads, then I feel like it'll position us. Cool. Now you got these things you want to hit. But let her push back. You know what I'm saying? Let her push back. Let her say, yeah, you know what? I think that's a good idea. But like, I don't know how old your kids are. You know what I'm saying? But if you got like a little kid or little kids, like under, how old?
3 months.
So your wife is not only dealing with the transition of pushing out a baby, potentially postpartum depression. You know what I'm saying? And you sitting here trying to like, you know, be the Christian Gary V, building all these different right? And bro, like I remember it because when you had that first child, you have that fire underneath you because you understand, like, I don't want to be working this job forever. I don't want to be doing this stuff forever. Bro, I feel you. I would say the only solution I could think of is communication and expectations. Frustration and resentment builds when there's unmet expectations. So if you guys aren't on the same page, if you got these expectations, hey, you need to give me freedom to let me build this thing. And she's like, fool, we got a 3-month-old. I need you here because I'm struggling. Like, expectations. If y'all can get on the same page, and it's going to be give and take. It's going to be some give and take. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be, hey, I need to give more in this area, and then in this area, I could spend a little bit more time working on this thing right here. And systems, bro, time management. I'm doing more by spending less hours now than ever before. I spend way less hours working on YouTube and music, but I get way more revenue out of it, right? So we're refining those systems, cleaning up those systems. There's a quote by Abraham Lincoln, right? If 2 men have to go out and chop down trees, you know, one man spends 5 hours chopping down a tree. The other man spends 4 hours sharpening his axe and an hour chopping down a tree, right? Are you doing things to sharpen your axe, to sharpen your mind, personally, spiritually, physically, right? Time with your family is like sharpening axe. It will make you feel better about when you actually go work because you won't feel like you're neglecting one to fulfill the other, right? So that becomes the systems and the refinement and all that kind of stuff. But listen, I am not the prototype of this. I am literally violating the very thing I'm preaching to you about in real time. I should have wrapped this up an hour ago. I'm going to go to Pastor Roy. I feel like he might have some better insight on this. But it's something that a lot of men deal with, man, if we're honest. Go ahead, boss.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it from a perspective of, you know, and most people on here probably don't even know because I haven't said it, but I've done Christian hip hop for the last 18 years roughly. But I've also built a very successful career, which also takes sacrifice, right? Building anything takes sacrifice. And we talk about getting houses, right? I don't know if you saw like I just built my wife our second house that we built from scratch. So in that, the one thing I'm going to say is that you need to agree on the sacrifice.
Yes.
Right? So people talk about work-life balance, and I have to say this to my employees all the time. Work-life balance doesn't mean Russ gets 8 hours today with the kids, 8 hours with the wife, 8 hours of sleep. That's not what work-life balance is. That's a myth. People put it in books. It's nonsense, right? Work-life balance is there are going to be days, because how do you get work-life balance when you're on tour? You don't, unless your kids are with you. Then you're just away from your family for 3 weeks or every other. I mean, I remember I did maybe shows every other weekend for like 9 or 10 weeks straight. And I was at work all day or traveling around the world, then not seeing my kids on the weekend. So work-life balance isn't within a day, right? Like if you're trying to chase this, I did 4 hours worth of design and social media, so I got to do 4 hours with my wife. Like you can't balance it that way. Like you have to agree on the sacrifice, which means you have to agree on the dream. I tell everybody to ever work with, when I had a label, I told them, I need to meet your wife, because if your wife doesn't agree with your ministry, I do not want to deal with you at all.
Come on.
If your wife don't know the lyrics to your song, I don't want to rock with you. Like You know what I mean? Like, she has to understand what she's signing up for, right? Like, if there's an agreement that we want to build the brand, I want to see you do well in your music. Cool, you got an agreement on the dream, but then it's the sacrifice of how much money are we going to invest in this, and how does this impact our budget? How much time are you going to invest in this, right? Like, even at the height, like, are you going to be traveling every weekend? I know artists that, you know, I remember even Bizzle for a minute, like, he was always home on Sunday, right? Like, that was his thing. He'd fly through the week, but he was home on Sunday with his family. So you've got Prophet Link. I'm saying your wife got to know your lyrics now, bro. But so at least the hook. But you have to have that understanding, because that's one of the things that gets misaligned, right? Like, your dream in your head keeps growing, and you and your wife talked about something, but in your brain you kept germinating it. So like now it's grown into this whole thing that's bigger than what she agreed to. So you've got to agree on the dream, because that dream, right, she probably was cool with you shooting a video, and now you got a clothing brand. You know what I'm saying? Like, she like, I just put out a baby, you birthing clothing lines, and I thought you was dropping a single. Like, we don't, you know what I mean? Like, you have to agree, because even as that stuff changes over time, you need to touch back in, right? Like, you can't just assume that because she agreed at one point, as your mind keeps running, she's still agreeing with you. Because you could agree at the beginning and then you lose her, right? Because she didn't understand all the open mic nights, and now you want to make your own beats, and now you're doing your own apparel, and now you want to go on tour. Now you have, you know, at 11 o'clock at night on one-on-one calls with Ruslan. Like, you have to make sure it's very clear what the agreement is when it comes to the dream and when it comes to the sacrifice. And don't try to fit work-life balance in a day. And Ruslan just said it, manage your schedule, but like, manage your schedule by the week. Not by the day, right? Like, I've got to work. I'm going to spend time with my family. You got to do it in bigger blocks of time, because if you try to do it by the day, you're going to be disappointed every day, and you're going to let yourself down every day, and you give yourself no room to make it up, right? If you said, I'm going to spend time with my son, and me and my son sleep right now because it's 12 o'clock on the East Coast, so I missed saying goodnight to him. But like, that's gone now. Like, I can't make that up. It's already gone, but I can make that up tomorrow, because I'm not limiting myself to having this balance within a day. So you got to expand that time frame out and give yourself more latitude, but that has to be an agreement. So if you don't agree on the dream, and if you ain't agreeing on the sacrifice, you're gonna have a struggle. I've been married for 14 years, where I traveled 75% of the time all over the country, all over the world, but there was always an understanding with my wife. And when it got to the point to where we achieved it, it was like, do we want more, or do we want to stay here? Right. And when we agreed, you know what, we don't need anything more. So I'm not going to travel more. I'm going to cut my travel back. And then we just, you know what I mean? We just settle into a new place. But as those transition points come up, and as things start to expand, you have to realign, because your brain is going bigger than hers was. And you're already right now past the point that she agreed to.
That is so good. Goodness gracious. That's it. Mic drop. Ain't nothing else to talk about, guys and gals. Ain't nothing else to talk about. Let me know what y'all think.
Kingstream Entertainment. Ruslan.